Peter King, Football Morning in America columnist and contributor to Football Night in America, on assignment in Pittsburgh for the Steelers and the Patriots. Wow, that's combat pay.
How the mighty have fallen, says Dan Patrick.
There's still time to get out of town, Peter.
What do you mean, the game? Oh, yeah, you're right. I still got 10 hours, don't I?
I was looking at the promo for the game, and it was Belichick and T.J. Watt. And then I think they were trying to use David Andrews, which might be the first center ever used in a promo, unless Jim Otto was featured, back in the 70s here. Give us a reason to watch the game tonight, in your opinion.
I mean, I think there's a couple of them. One, I don't know if you look at the Patriots schedule until they play the Jets in the last game. I mean, could this be the best chance they would have to win a game? And then I'll tell you what, Dan, there's a lot of heat on Mike Tomlin. There has been for a while in Pittsburgh, but I was on a talk show here yesterday, and I'll tell you, the general populace is really fallen out of love with Mike Tomlin, which I think is insane. And one of the points I make about Tomlin all the time is, look, I realize he hasn't won a playoff game in forever, and it's justified if if you're anti-Tomlin because of that, and I get it, but I mean, he loses franchise quarterback. They're trying to build somebody up, to be that guy. Since Tom Brady walked off campus in New England, Bill Belichick is 8 games below 500. Since Ben Roethlisberger walked off campus here, the Steelers are 3 games over 500. So what is wrong with this picture? I realize it's less time, but, Mike Tomlin wins games. That's the thing that always boggles my mind when people criticize Tomlin as vociferously as they do.
30 years ago, I think today, you wrote an article for Sports Illustrated. You remember what it was?
How to revive a boring league.
Yes. How to revive the NFL. Give us some of those tidbits, those nuggets that you were suggesting 30 years ago to revive the NFL.
Well, at the time, points were way down. Injuries were way up. It was a brutal, brutal league. In terms of, the physicality of the league. And I think one of the things that we thought at Sports Illustrated at the time was really important was you got to focus on the quarterbacks. You've got to make it easier to score points in this league. And look, I'm not saying that that's revolutionary. Everybody knows that now. They knew that then. And I think the NFL set out, honestly, 25 to 30 years ago, and you look at probably 80% of the rules changes in that period of time have all been to liberalize rules to make people score points more. So I think that's one thing the league did that we suggested, but I think they were going to probably do it anyway because the writing was on the wall. At the time, the one thing I remember vividly about that was at a time of revolutionary time in NFL history because free agency had just began. The Reggie White decision came down, which basically mandated that there's going to be real free agency in the NFL. Reggie White was the NFL's Curt Flood. And so, you look at it, and that was probably in 1993, that era, the most revolutionary thing that happened in football.
Peter King from Football Morning in America on assignment in Pittsburgh for the Patriots and the Steelers. More dysfunctional organization, the Jets or the Panthers right now?
Oh, definitely the Panthers. I mean, the Jets have had a bunch of weird little step-in crap moments recently, but, I can tell you that the players are still listening to Robert Saleh. I'm not positive, but what I hear is that Woody Johnson still very much believes in Saleh. He's going to be back. Joe Douglas, I'm not positive about, but my gut feeling, it's just a gut feeling, is that those guys will come back together for another year. Now, in Carolina, it's as big a mess as there is in the NFL. The story that The Athletic wrote yesterday about, the dysfunction and sort of the Hunger Games mentality where coaches and staffers are texting the owner of the team, telling him what's wrong with the team. It's, David Tepper has turned into, he's the new Dan Snyder, minus all the, sexual improprieties and allegations. But David Tepper, I wrote this week, Dan, is Steinbrenner without the winning. He's a disaster. And if you're going to hire a head coach and 10 months later you're going to fire him, you shouldn't have hired him in the first place. You didn't really believe in him. And to take all the suggestions and all the emails, all the texts from people inside the organization, I'm assuming at least some of them, if not most of them, were Reich's doing a crappy job. This is what we ought to be doing. It's just, it's so ridiculous. Can you imagine, a good franchise with people undercutting the head coach, going behind his back, many of them to the owner? It's insane. It's insane. And David Tepper, if that story is true, and look, Joe Person, Diana Rossini, very reputable reporters. I have no reason to think it isn't absolutely true. And that really would bother me if I were a fan of the Panthers right now.
Let me go back to the Jets because Diana Rossini was reporting on one of the reporters who was reporting on Zack Wilson reluctant to play, and it was common knowledge in the building there. The Jets have denied that. Aaron Rodgers didn't deny it. He just kind of blasted the organization for leaking. Where do you stand on that story with Zack Wilson wanting to play, not wanting to play, and the organization's role in this?
Well, I don't know how the information got out, but I think Aaron Rodgers is absolutely right. It's absurd that if indeed that's the way Zack Wilson felt for a time on Monday, and I have no reason to doubt that, if that's what he felt, or at least he was asking questions about it, it's not good that got out. It just isn't good. And I think, look, I don't think anybody believes that Zack Wilson's the answer. And he clearly isn't the answer. They don't have an answer right now. But one of the things I think, Dan, that hasn't been talked about enough is the fact that, Nathaniel Hackett last year had a quarterback in Denver, and they had either the worst or one of the two or three worst offenses in football. This year, he doesn't have a quarterback with the Jets, and he has no solutions at all. Dan, if I told you that the New York Jets, their last 88 offensive possessions, had scored 4 touchdowns, what would you think of that? That's like the JV team at a bad high school playing the state champions. That's the kind of production you get in that situation. So to me, Robert Saleh has a lot of issues right now, a lot of issues. And one of his big issues is Hackett, because of his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, is basically untouchable. Yeah. So what does he do? What does he do with the offense that underachieves? And how would you have any faith other than with Aaron Rodgers running it on autopilot on the field next year? I don't know. To me, Saleh's got some real problems in New York.
The commissioner reportedly wants to eliminate the brotherly shove. How does that happen?
The single most important person in any rules change situation in the NFL, who can put his thumb on any scale and make things happen, is Roger Goodell. That's how much power he has. He doesn't use the power when he knows that the power isn't going to be enough. Like last year at this time, Dan, when this was really first starting to come to significant prominence, mid-season last year when Jeff Stoutland, the line coach of the Eagles, had and it led by Jason Kelsey on the line, had perfected this, and we all started seeing it. Personally, I think it's awful. It isn't really, unless you wanted to play football in 1908. It's not what football should be, in my opinion. Now, it's part of the rules. Congratulations to the Eagles for perfecting it. I do the same thing too. I'd probably do it more. But the fact is, Roger Goodell, my guess would be, and I don't know if that is absolutely the case, but I do know that there are some influential people in league circles who have a lot to do with the rules who think it's awful. And I'm just saying that this is going to get a full airing in the offseason. But again, in the absence of significant injury records, with this, such and such a guy got hurt here, this many guys get hurt in the brotherly shove versus other plays, I don't know that they're going to have 24 owners who will vote to kill it.